Riot on Red Church Street is such an interesting watch.
Thank
Why
you.
why was this a film that you wanted to make?
Um, it was it's based on a real incident that
Mhm.
my girlfriend witnessed, and at the time in the UK, there'd been no films about music and street culture and this kind of thing for a very long time, and it it just seemed the right thing, uh, if
Th
that makes sense.
it does. This film has a lot of good music in it and showcases a lot of locations that I don't think I've seen anything similar to them in other films. What was the process in scouting these locations?
It was basically just whatever was to hand. So we knew friends that had a big white space gallery, so we knew we were going to use that. My producing partner had this art gallery kind of office space with the rehearsal room in the back, so we knew we were going to use that. And the rest were just friends' venues in the neighborhood because we were just trying to make the film we could make.
Mhm.
So at the time, meaning to say that whatever was to hand and looked interesting, if we could get to use it, we would use it. So that was it, really.
And how was the music chosen? Because it seemed to really fit the mood of what's happening in the that segment of the story.
Well, there's four original songs in the film written by Siobhan Fahey, and those were things that we had already when we had the script. So I I retrofitted some of the script to work better with those songs, and the rest was mostly chosen by Sean McCloskey, my producing partner and music supervisor, and then the rest again it was friends that we had who had new things that they'd made that we wanted to use, and then a bunch of other things that just seemed appropriate and atmospheric for whatever was going on at the time in the story. Uh,
Yeah, to go along with that, the visual is it's very rugged, very punk rock.
thank you.
How did you get that look for this? And did the locations you chose, were they were they helpful in creating this very kind of grainy look to the film?
Well, the film is a mixture of Super 16, Super 8,
Mhm.
some 4K, some drone footage. And I think what I wanted to do was give it a very kind of cut and paste collagey kind of feel.
Mhm.
You've used the term punk rock. I think so many things now look so polished and so
Mhm.
slick and not very interesting. And the hard thing is whether it's on Hulu or Netflix or Amazon. Apart from the things on Apple that all look the same as each other,
Mhm.
they all look as if they've been art directed by the same person. Um, I think everything else looks too slick now in the 21st century. And when everyone used to shoot things on film and you couldn't do 50 takes of anything, you
Mhm.
didn't have you, you didn't have the stock. I think what happens when that is the case, you have to you have to be more flexible. And also in this, truth be told, I didn't want to shoot any coverage. I didn't want to have establishing shots of a room.
Mhm.
Everyone knows what a room looks like. Everyone knows what a nightclub looks like, or a bathroom, or somewhere on the street. So what was important to me was to most of the film that's shot on film, those parts are all either shot on a very short lens or a very long lens. So what that does is it gives the whole thing kind of a very claustrophobic and very
Hmm.
close in kind of feel, which I really wanted for it because I wanted the audience to feel what that world was like. And when you're in it, um, it's like it's very everything's kind of small and kind of a bit dirty and a bit broken.
Hmm.
So I wanted to show that.
Yeah, definitely. That's another question I had. That intimate feel, because this really does feel like a story that is very narrow, very focused. Uh, why did you want to have that very intimate, close up feel, that cost almost claustrophobic feel for your characters?
Because it was important to me that this is loosely inspired by a movie called Cabaret and the book or
Mm,
the books that it's based on, which are the Christopher Isherwood books written in Germany, in Berlin in the 30s, I think. And when I read those books, it felt very, very immersive of a time and a scene and the political backdrop of that time. And I wanted to express that in this film. And I thought the best way of doing that was that you'd never look away from these characters, no matter
mhm.
how messed up everything got. You were right there with them, and you could feel the sweat and the unease. And I wanted to very much communicate that, and so that's why it's all you're almost in everyone's face,
Mhm.
and also, you know, I think there's I thought we were going to get in trouble because you see all a guy. I show a guy building a crack pipe and
Mhm.
smoking crack and smashing up the room and having phone sex and going berserk. And I'd never seen. I'd seen
Mhm.
that in like movies from the '60s. All that stuff seems to have got like apart from things like maybe like uh, Last Exit to Brooklyn or some Darren Aronofsky movies, which are
Mhm.
much bigger movies, much slicker movies. I rarely seen that kind of thing, and I I wanted to show it. I wanted people to feel some of that kind of tension, you know.
Definitely. And going with that, you talked about the dirty feel to the way it looks. You talked
Mm,
about showing some uh more uh unconventional scenes.
yes.
Uh, why is film going in that direction where we want to censor that? But, you know, much like you, I'm happy you brought this into the film because it gives it that extra layer of
Mm,
what's going on, especially when this film has a lot of historical basis as well.
mm. Well, I can't speak for the mainstream industry. I was sort of in and out of it, and I still dance in and out of it when anyone will hire me, which is getting rarer and rarer.
Mhm.
But I think that what's happened is all those things that made European movies great in the '60s and American movies great in the '70s, it's all disappeared. It's all
Mhm.
turned into I don't know. I mean, I see films from Southeast Asia that look more interesting than things from here. I see different countries, Korea, different places making very interesting things. But I think what happens mostly to English language film now is because everyone's end game is Netflix or
Mhm.
Amazon or what have you, that everyone's sort of vying for some kind of super homogenized mainstream audience.
Mhm.
And the irony is that what Netflix and Amazon do is, well, more so Amazon maybe, is that you can watch all sorts of things. I mean, I love watching a channel called Tubi because
Mhm.
it has old films on. It has films that I mean, I watch films like the John Frankenheimer movie with Burt Lancaster, The Train, and it's an incredibly visceral film, and it's from like a billion years ago. And then when I watched the modern day version of kind of big budget explosive things, the soul and the grit has gone from it. And I think even with independent film, I think the tragedy is that so many people are making their calling card short to get their calling card feature to get a Hollywood movie deal, to make some massive thing with Channing Tatum. I mean, I like that thing Blink Twice. I thought it was good, but I also thought it was horrendous because it looks like every single other A24 thing. It's almost as if is it an A24 thing? Well, it must look the same as every other A24 thing. And then, I mean, I like that movie Zola. I thought that movie probably was one of the few that I saw recently that I thought this feels a bit dangerous. This feels a bit interesting. This feel tinges of David Lynch or I mean, where's what happened to I mean, all those guys, I mean, he's dead, obviously, but all those kind of guys, I can't imagine people would fund those things now because the mainstream sensibility says David Lynch and so many other guys like that are too fringe now. And I think that's a huge loss culturally and a huge loss in terms of the art form itself because um, without outliers like that, then what's left except another super slick kind of I don't even know what half this stuff is. I mean, I'm nearly 60 years old now, but coming up, I remember so many, watching Jim Jarmusch films and thinking I wanted to do that, not I want to make an episode of Severance.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say Severance isn't great, but it's also it it just feels bizarrely kind of packaged and soulless. And I don't, if that's as a filmmaker or someone in the arts, if that's my option, I'd rather burn it to the ground. I mean, that's just me. And that's maybe why, unbeknownst to me on one level, I'm trying to make something so fractured and so disjointed because half of me loves, you know, when I watch jump cuts in a French New Wave film
Mm-hmm.
and I see how hard it is to do that and make it work.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I'm
Definitely.
rambling. I'm sorry.
No, I really enjoyed that answer. Going with that, you took a lot of risks on this film. It feels very calculated yet purposeful. What kind of reactions are you expecting from an audience when they get to watch this?
Well, the funny thing is this incarnation of it is thus far has only ever played in the theatre once, which was last Wednesday at the TCL Chinese Six at the Golden State Film Festival. And a big shout out to Peter Green from the Golden State Film Festival for programming our film. Um, Seeing it in a theatre was absolutely magical because obviously you cut on a computer screen
Mm-hmm.
that I'm cutting on a 27-inch monitor. I'm watching it back on a 42-inch screen, and I'm like, something different happens when you see it on a 50-foot screen,
Mm-hmm.
and all those bumps and clunks that look one way when you watch it on TV are very different when you watch it on the big screen. So I think even though I think it really works on a TV screen still, and I think it works because I'm deploying certain mainstream techniques like the push-ins and pull-outs that are very very present in Succession to make it feel like a documentary, to make it feel very live. But then at this, by the same token, I'm I'm mixing massively different media. I'm mixing 4K and Super 8. I'm adding huge amounts of grain to the 4K to downgrade it. In some bits of it, I've got like 6 layers of grain moving in different directions.
Wow.
So the grain looks live in the 4K like it looks on the Super 8 bumped up to 1080p.
Mhm.
So there's technical things like that that I love to like mess with. And then also what I'm really trying to do is throw out the convention that we need to have all this connective tissue that we think we need in a film. And I'm trying to do something a bit more impressionistic because we know what someone going in and out of a door looks like.
Mhm.
So we don't need to see them enter the room. We only need to land in the room. The
Mhm.
same with a scene. Do we need the build up why two people are fighting, or do we just need to see the fight? I would argue we just need to see the fight. And also, this is generationally, I'm watching my girlfriend's kids watch TikTok,
Mhm.
and I'm like thinking, that's spilling into my psyche, whether I like it or not, whether I want to have a luxurious looking thing like the brutalist.
Mhm.
Actually, I don't. I want something that feels like TikTok in some respects, because TikTok feels just more present and honest. And for the handful of times Riot may play in theaters, it doesn't matter so much because lots of people are watching it on their phones or on their iPads. So I want something that makes sense in that setting. And so that's why, you know, there's some TikToky kind of elements. That's why I'm putting a text conversation that plays too fast to even read it in detail.
Mhm.
That's not by accident. That's because that's what happens when you're texting somebody. You're
Mhm.
scanning through the type. So when we're seeing it big instead of on our phones, I was thinking, what can I do to make it feel you feel more present in that process? And I just thought, run it just that little hair too fast. So
Mhm.
you have to look when you see the second bubble look pop up. You have to look really hard to be able to read it. So anyway, um, yes, that's what I'm doing. Or trying to do.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on this project. It is incredible. It is very unconventional in some of the best ways I've seen in a while. So,
I'm thrilled you think that, and I'm thrilled anyone thinks that. I mean, this journey has taken 14 years. I mean, we
wow.
started shooting this. Parts of the film were shot in 2011. Parts of it are from 2018, and most of what put it in shape for what it is now started 4 years ago.
Mhm.
But this edit really is from the end of last year, so it's pretty current.
Mhm.
But the fact that you see that, and a couple of people who came to the screening like the unconventionalness of it, it's a huge thrill because I just thought I just wanted to get it finished. There was a
Mhm.
deliverable and a delivery date. And I thought, I just need to finish this. It needs to exist in the world. And the idea that I have been even a tiny bit successful in making anyone understand that I didn't want to break the mold. I wanted to smash it. I
Mhm.
wanted to take a sledgehammer to it. And not because I'm even that accomplished as a filmmaker or a writer or any of it, but just because so many of the things that I watch that are from last year feel like they're from 30 years ago.
Mhm.
I really watched that. I really like watching that series called the Zero Day. I love
Mhm.
Robert De Niro. Who's not to love him? And I thought it was a tremendous thing. And I binge watched it. It's like
Mhm.
6 hours of it or whatever. I watched it all day and all till like 5 in the morning or whatever, some shit. And I just I thought this could have been made 30 years ago. It despite the fact I know it's shot on an Alexa and I know there's all these technical bells and whistles with it, it just feels old. And I didn't want to do that.
Hmm.
I couldn't do that, mostly because there was missing bits of it, and I had to work out how to fix that with what I had to hand.
Hmm.
So I made motion graphics and I jump cut things, and there was bits where I didn't like performances of certain actors. So I retimed the dialogue. I mean, that's awful, really. That's like reframing someone's performance. But I thought if they just if I just move that pause in that piece of dialogue, they go from being a terrible actor to a terrific actor.
Hmm.
And I thought it's my fault that I didn't give them the time or the opportunity to be as terrific as they might be. So if I can reframe that and make it better. So I did that every chance I got. Wherever there was a bit that didn't work, I would attempt to, and this stock footage and there's other things that I kind of found or I made from other, like I made a bunch of fake newspaper clippings off some
Hmm.
like $50 motion graphics template that I pulled apart and I rebuilt so I could change the fonts on it
Hmm.
so it looked a bit more like a real newspaper. You know, anyway, it's a huge thrill that you you saw that, you
Hmm.
felt that. I don't even know how to thank you enough for even saying that, because it blows my mind that after all this time, I mean, I spent 4.5 months recutting the film, um, 5 days a week, 8 to 10 hours a day, 4.5 months,
Wow.
just to try and finesse every little bit that was clunky in the wrong way
Hmm.
to make it, because there's a massive difference between clunky and rugged.
Hmm.
And I'm hoping that a lot of the time I achieve rugged and not clunky, because it's a difference. Clunky is, you know, amateur filmmaking,
Hmm.
and then rugged is something that great filmmakers from other countries and cultures manage to do or have to do
Hmm.
because they don't have the right VFX, so they do everything in camera, you know?
Definitely.
Anyway,
Yeah. Congratulations on this. I thought it was a wonderful film, and thank you very much for your time.
thank you so much, man. You have a great day.